What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the full 90, and I can't believe it, but you guys actually did it. Again, on the last video, we broke the record number of likes I've ever had on this channel. We hit 400 likes on that video, so please smash a like down below. Let's just keep that train rolling because the support has been absolutely insane. I want to give a massive shout out to Christopher Hesp, who left their comment with their Premier League predictions on the previous video, and they are clearly a Bolton Wanderers fan. If you want to get your comment featured in the next episode of the Premier League predictions, then leave your comment down below with your predictions, as well as I'm doing a little thing on the channel, a comment question of the day, of the week. So last time I asked you to drop who you supported down in the comments. Now that we've done that, as well as your predictions, I'd like you to tell me one transfer you guys would like for your club in the January transfer window. It can be a dream transfer like Mbappe, but I'd rather you go realistic. So, you know, whoever you support, which one player would you most like to come to your club in the January transfer window? Leave that with your comment as well as your Premier League predictions for a chance to be featured in the next episode. Now, before we get into week 22's fixtures, we're going to have a little look back at week 21, the New Year's Day and 2nd of January fixtures for the Premier League. Kicking off, we had Brighton versus Chelsea. I predicted a 2-1 Chelsea away win, and I was close, but not quite on the mark. It was a 1-1 draw thanks to a fantastic goal of the season contender by Jahanbakhsh over the head kick. It was a good strike, it has to be said. The next game, Burnley versus Aston Villa, I got this one wrong. The stats suggested that Burnley definitely came into the game later on. They had way more shots and everything like that, but I predicted a 2-0 win to Burnley, and it was a 2-1 win to Aston Villa, so a very good result there. The next game, Newcastle versus Leicester, I predicted a 3-1 away win to Leicester, and I was close, but it was a 3-0 win to Leicester, so not too bad. The next one is so frustrating. It was Southampton Tottenham. My initial prediction, I said Southampton to win 2-1, and then I bottled it and said Spurs to win 2-1, and Southampton ended up winning 1-0, so I wish I went with my gut and said Southampton to win, but I felt like Tottenham just should have beaten Southampton, but they couldn't in the end. The next game, Watford versus Wolves, I predicted a 2-1 away win to Wolves, but it was a 2-1 home win to Watford. So again, the prediction I made of Watford's resurgence, it's happening. The next game, Manchester City versus Everton, I predicted a 3-1 win to Man City, and I was again very close. It was a 2-1 win to Manchester City. Coming up after that, we had my first correct score prediction of the week. I predicted that Norwich and Crystal Palace would draw 1-1, and they did just that. After that, I said that West Ham would finally return to winning ways against Bournemouth. I said 2-1, and they actually destroyed Bournemouth 4-0. The next game, Arsenal versus Manchester United. I suppose I didn't give the Arteta effect enough credit. Arsenal played Manchester United off the park, and I predicted a 2-1 away win to Man United, but hoped that Arsenal would get something from the game, and they did. It was a 2-0 win. And then after that, another correct score prediction. I correctly predicted Liverpool to beat Sheffield United 2-0. So not a bad week. Let's see if we can continue that sort of form going into week 22 of the Premier League. So as I said, please drop a like and let's get started. The first game, we have Sheffield United up against West Ham. West Ham obviously now under new management under David Moyes, and Sheffield United doing Sheffield United things. They looked pretty good against Man City when they lost 2-0, and maybe you could argue they're a bit unlucky not to get anything out of there. They were well beaten by Liverpool in the end, losing 2-0, but still positive signs considering who they were playing. It's Liverpool. They're the most informed team in the world right now. So Sheffield United, I think that they can be proud of their performances of late, and obviously Liverpool, they just played absolutely unreal against them, to be fair. West Ham, they obviously did absolutely slap Bournemouth 4-0. I think this is going to be a much more difficult challenge. I did say a couple of weeks ago, obviously, that I don't think Watford are going to get relegated, and I'm not sure who would take their place, but with the injury troubles of Bournemouth, it's looking like Bournemouth could be potential candidates for a surprise relegation, which would be very interesting. But anyway, Sheffield United versus West Ham. I'm going to go for a home win just because West Ham don't travel that well. Yes, they won last week convincingly, but I think Sheffield United away is a different task to facing a weakened Bournemouth at their home ground. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 home win to Sheffield United. The next game, Crystal Palace up against Arsenal. Now, Arsenal, they've kept 2 clean sheets in their past 2 games, a 2-0 win against Manchester United and a 1-0 win against Leeds United in the FA Cup after a clearly very tough team talk at half-time, which turned Arsenal's performance around into a much better showing. They looked very, very good in that second half and deservedly went through in the end. Crystal Palace, they drew away to Norwich, which isn't a bad result, but it's also not a great result. Norwich sitting at the bottom of the table, you'd expect Palace with their pretty good away form, to be honest, to get something else from that game, you know, a win. I'm going to go for an Arsenal away win here. They are looking much better defensively under Mikel Arteta. I think it's about time Arsenal do concede, though, so I'm going to go for a 2-1 Arsenal away win. When Arsenal are in decent form, a 2-1 away win is a fairly good shout because they are a better team than most on paper, but they're always liable to let in a goal here and there. So 2-1 away win to Arsenal. The next game is Chelsea up against Burnley. Now, Chelsea drawing with Brighton 1-1. Fair result, to be honest. I believe the stats were very, very identical. The 1-1 draw makes a lot of sense. I think it was 50% possession to both teams, 6 shots on target to both teams, and 11 shots off target to both teams. So it had draw written all over it based on that, and deservedly so, I would say. Burnley losing out to Aston Villa. They couldn't take their chances, and they were punished for it. I'm going to go for a Chelsea win here. Maybe I'm not giving Burnley enough credit by saying they won't score, but I think this is also part of me just not wanting to go for a third 2-1 prediction in a row. So if it does end 2-1 to Chelsea, I kind of called it in a way, but I don't want to go for 3 in a row. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win to Chelsea in this fixture. The next game is Everton up against Brighton. Brighton showing some positive signs this season. They did do well against Chelsea and deservedly, as I said, got a point. Everton coming close to getting something from Manchester City, but just failing, and pretty woeful performance, to be honest, in the FA Cup. They couldn't take their chances. They lost to basically a Liverpool B team thanks to a fantastic goal by Jones, the youngster, from just outside the box. It was perfectly placed. Pickford made it look even better because he did a good stretch, put a shift in to try and get it, but just an unsavable goal, to be honest, from the young lad. I'm going to go for an Everton win in this fixture. Again, this could have been a 2-1 because Brighton are likely to score this season more so than others. They are playing some good attacking football, but I don't want to just keep going for 2-1s every single fixture, even though it is the prediction that I've got right the most this year. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 win to Everton, because when Everton played Man City, they only conceded twice, which against Man City is all right, and they're not scoring tons of goals lately, you know, it's fairly low scoring, so I'm going to go for a 1-0 win. The next game is Leicester versus Southampton. Obviously, the last time these two teams met, it was that 9-0 thrashing. I believe Leicester were 2-0 up when the red card came, 1 or 2-0 up, and that red card, we're already losing within the first like 20 minutes, definitely changed the game completely, but Leicester were still dominant in that game. Southampton, however, rejuvenated going into this game, beating Tottenham. They beat Huddersfield in the FA Cup as well. They're playing a lot better, so I think this one's going to be much closer, but you can't go and beat Southampton 9-0 at St Mary's and then not win at the King Power Stadium. So I'm going to go for the Old Faithful 2-1 score prediction. My original score prediction for this game was 3-1, but I figured Southampton have been playing a lot better lately. They haven't been conceding too much either, so I'm going to go for a slightly lower scoring 2-1 win to Leicester. Now, the next game is Manchester United up against Norwich. Man United, this is a perfect game for them to play, coming off of a pretty disappointing performance against Wolves in the FA Cup, drawing 0-0, and a very disappointing performance against Arsenal the week before that in the Premier League, losing 2-0. I think this is obviously the perfect team to play against to try and get back to winning ways, so I'm going to go for a 3-1 win to Manchester United. Norwich, they're good for a goal, but not good for much else at the moment, so I'm going to go for that convincing enough win to Man United. Now, the next game is Wolves up against Newcastle. Newcastle, woeful performance in the FA Cup, drawing 1-1 with Rochdale. Joe Linton is having a real tough time of it. Almiron got himself on the score sheet, which is pretty damn good. And Wolves, they played okay against Manchester United, but they really should have taken a chance. But yeah, Wolves are looking good this season, as we know, and I think at Molineux, this is going to be quite a straightforward win. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win to Wolverhampton Wanderers in this one. The next game is definitely, I would say, the game of the week. It is Tottenham Hotspur up against Liverpool, and this is probably the worst time for Tottenham to play Liverpool because they're really struggling this season. They really are. They lost to Southampton. They they drew with Middlesbrough in the FA Cup. Middlesbrough looking pretty good in the Championship, but still Tottenham should have enough quality to breeze through that third round tie. And I saw a statistic that said that Tottenham, since Jose Mourinho had been appointed manager, have conceded more goals in the Premier League than any other team, which is just, that's ludicrous. Tottenham letting them in left, right and centre, so playing Liverpool, who are rampant at the moment, is not it's not a great time for them to do that. So I'm going to go for a 3-1 away win to Liverpool. I think Tottenham will score. I think Harry Kane will chip in with a goal, but I think Liverpool are going to win this one comfortably enough to keep them way up top in the table at the moment. The next game is Bournemouth up against Watford. I was originally going to go for a 2-2 draw, and then I was going to go for a Watford win because Watford are looking way better than Bournemouth, like way better. So I was thinking, you know, could be a 2-1 away win. But again, I think I was thinking, you know, I don't really want to go for another 2-1 score prediction. So similarly to how I predicted Norwich and Crystal Palace to draw 1-1 last week, even though I think Palace are the better side, and I gave Norwich the home advantage, I'm going to predict a 1-1 draw between Bournemouth and Watford. Even though I think Watford are the better side, I'm giving Bournemouth the slight home edge, cancelling out to a 1-1 draw. Now, the final prediction, or the final game, I should say, is Aston Villa up against Manchester City. Now, Villa did very well to beat Burnley 2-1, and Aston Villa, FA Cup, can't remember off the top of my head what happened, so we'll just skip past that. Manchester City beating Port Vale 4-1 and in the FA Cup, and in the previous game week, they beat Everton 2-1. So, you know, they're keeping their squad rotated. They will have the Carabao Cup semi-final up against Manchester United, I believe, the day before this is uploaded, but I'm recording this on the 7th of January. It's going up on the 9th. So you guys will know how the first leg of the Carabao Cup went. I should say that Aston Villa and Leicester are also playing in the other semi-final of the Carabao Cup. But I think Aston Villa, I think they're going to get a goal at home. Jack Grealish will probably score it as well because he's actually looking very, very good. And he himself as a player looks to be quite a good fit for Manchester City. I'm not going to lie, in the future. I doubt it will happen in the January transfer window, but he's going places, Grealish. He's going to be, I think he's going places. He's looking good. He's carrying Aston Villa at the moment, especially with John McGinn out injured. I'm going to go for a 4-1 away win to Manchester City in this fixture. So that is going to do it for my week 22 predictions. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and remember, leave your comment down below for your predictions of these games and the results you think are going to happen, as well as your #1 January transfer for your club. So yes, subscribe today and turn on the bell so you don't miss another video, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one very soon.